Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello everyone, my name is Mark, aka Derringer. Today is Sunday, April 14th, and you are listening to episode 204 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. So I'm going to talk about that Support the Show tab just for a few moments today before we dive into the full show, because I just want to thank you guys, those of you who are out there using my Amazon link for whatnot. I mean, this past week or so, someone bought a nice new 35-inch curved gaming monitor. I mean, that was amazing. I'm not going to even tell you guys how much that cost, but I get a small taste of that from the purchase of that, so that's friggin' huge. Plus all the random things that all of you have been using my Amazon link for. I really, really appreciate it. As you guys know, I said I was going to be paying my server costs. I actually paid them a little early this year, thanks to the donations that you guys made for episode 200. And again, for all you guys that are out there using my Amazon link, I really, really, really appreciate it. And I'm not going to, I'm going to make sure you guys remember also, if you ever want some Instant Action Podcast swag, don't forget that you can also check out my Spreadshirt store. I've got things like coffee mugs and t-shirts. Somebody said, hey Derringer, you have a dog bandana on there, and I forgot, there's a dog bandana. So if your dog wants to support the Instant Action Podcast, and if you buy one of those, I want to see a picture of that on Twitter. So stuff like that is out there on the Spreadshirt store. And again, all of that, if you go to instantactionpodcast.com, there's a tab right on the top. It says support the show. If you click on that, you'll see all the various ways that you can help support me, keep this show cost neutral for me, because I've said it a million times, and I know it's like a broken record for you guys. If it keeps it cost neutral, that makes my wife happy. And as you guys know, or maybe if you're not married, you've never heard this term before, but happy wife, happy life. With that, let's move into this week's show. So what's in store for this week's show? Well, first I have the April 11th developer live stream to talk about. Lots of cool new stuff that they showed off there about what's coming up in the next week or so. After that, I want to talk about a graphs that You a Madman put together about max kills, and probably unsurprising what these results are going to show you, but still interesting nonetheless. Then I want to talk about pilots preserving their KD and how it's a pretty shitty thing to do in game. And then finally, I'm going to close this week's show giving a little props to the newest Planetside Infantry League that launched this past week. So strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. All right, like I said, first up this week is the April 11th developer live stream. So this was just this past Thursday. If you're a loser like me, you missed it and had to watch a replay of it. Good news is I will include a link to it in this week's show notes, so you guys can go out and take a watch of this yourself. Again, Thursdays, that's just a terrible time. I get why they do it when they do it. It's a good time for, it's in the afternoon, they're still at work, everything like that. It lands smack dab in the middle when I'm driving home from work, which means I never get to see these live streams. So it's not on them, it's on me. Clearly I need to quit my job and just podcast full time, right? But they did go over some interesting stuff in this live stream. They started off obviously with the DX11 information, saying that we're going to be seeing this stuff in the next game update when it does come out. They found that it's giving a lot more frames, they're getting more mileage out of it with higher and better graphics settings. They want people to turn shadows back on. They want people to turn up their graphics to take advantage of this DirectX 11. But the most interesting thing that they talked about in this portion of the live stream was the programming that they're using, something called telemetry. I'm not sure if it's an actual debugging program or if it's a term that they're using. I'm not familiar with it myself, and I apologize if I'm butchering it and you guys are listening to this say, oh, I know what telemetry is. Sorry that you don't. But it's something they're using to monitor frame rates and frame times. And Drew threw up on the screen actual timing from action to action that telemetry is picking up and showing all kinds of interesting data on pre-DirectX 11 and post-DirectX 11 out on the PTS, and showing how under DirectX 9 there was lots of hitching, lots of loading. When big fights are going on, there was a lot of time between things happening, and just a lot of time, and you could actually see the time between them. He also showed off an example of alt tabbing out of your game and then alt tabbing back in, and the amount of time that it took for the game to load itself back up again and be playable was so long. And then he showed the exact same thing under DirectX 11, and it was almost instantaneous that it comes back and you're able to play a game. I mean, not that everybody's alt tabbing out of their game at all times, but certainly you'll be able to do stuff like that. But really, it was interesting to see the better frame consistency and things like that. And Drew did say that his testing wasn't just, no players in a warp gate. He had a whole bunch of people log in, and he did a mini play session on Aiken Southern Labs with over 40 people. So, I mean, it wasn't a small group of people playing in a specific area, but it was interesting to see all the stuff that this telemetry is actually giving them and seeing the stuff that they're doing with it. And they mentioned how they've got people actually looking at the timing based on the telemetry to find out why things were doing what they were doing under DirectX 9 and make it better under DirectX 11. Just looking at stuff like this, I'm very excited for DirectX 11 to come out. I'm not sure yet how much I'm going to bump up my graphical settings, though, to be honest. I mean, I've been playing on potato settings a lot lately, and because other people I play with, I've been asking people, I said, do you play potato settings? And even people who are streaming, I said, do you do potato settings when you're streaming? And everybody's like, yeah, I do potato settings all the time because it's what allows me to play better. And I've found that I've been playing better, getting a higher KD and stuff like that, just by playing in potato mode versus non-potato mode. So again, I'm going to have to play it by ear when the DirectX 11 stuff does come out. There's no real they didn't give a date on when we can expect to see this stuff, but it sounds like they're getting closer and closer and closer. Now, they also talked about the community playtest. This happened on the 12th. Again, this happened at 2 p.m. Pacific, which is 5 Eastern, when I was driving home from work. So I missed out on this PTS community playtest, which means I missed out on the new reward that they were giving out. This is the NSX Raging Ninja Star. I hear, and again, I didn't get to do the playtest. It's because, like I said, I was driving home, and then I have dinner with my family shortly after I get home. So that was not a good time for me to do a playtest. So I will be certainly looking for the next community playtest that they throw together, because I want to get in on the Raging Ninja Star as well. But I do know that people had a lot of issues with the playtest. PTS crashing when over 1,000 players tried to get in at the same time. They had to do a whole bunch of restarts, and it was an absolute clusterfuck for people who were trying to test stuff out. That being said, the feedback that I have seen from the devs said that they did get a lot of good information out of this playtest regardless. And also, if you're worried about not getting the Raging Ninja Star, even if you logged in momentarily and then could never get back in, they are going to be doing a grant for that. I believe it's probably going to be happening this week, if not next week. You'll be getting them. So as long as you logged in, they do have a record of everybody who logged in and everything like that. And again, I'm hoping that they're going to run some more of these play tests in the near future, maybe this coming week, maybe at some different times, so that more of us can actually get in and play around with it. Obviously, if there's going to be a play test, you guys can watch my Twitter because I'll be retweeting it as well. From there, they moved on to talk about what things could be coming up in the future for Planetside 2. And one of those things is the new player tutorials that they've been working on. And yes, they did say a while back that new player tutorials were one of the big things that they would be working on. And it was good to finally be able to see some of the stuff that they're doing. So there were a couple prototypes that they showed off on the live stream. One of them was Drew was able to spawn a harasser and then use that harasser on Coltier to drive around through various waypoints. Very basic in what it is, but gets people used to driving, a harasser. I'd love to see them kind of flesh that out more, maybe have something that's more than one person doing that together, so maybe you can have a drive and gun type of simulation. I don't know, this is just me pipe dreaming, really is what it is. But they also said that they'd love to incorporate something like this. Wrel said specifically he'd love to see something like this where they do time trials and see who can be the fastest person who runs through these various courses. It was good to see that they're actually trying to do something. Then Wrel also showed off a different tutorial, based around light assaults, and it was something that spawns specifically just for the player themselves and not for everybody else in the world. And he was using the jump jets to go from platform to platform, and it was just a way for a light assault player to learn how to use the jump jets to go from position to position. It wasn't terrible, and it was certainly interesting, and I'd love to see something more like that in the game. Something specific to each individual class would be a really good idea, and I hope that's the direction that they're going through. They did also say that they're working on a flying one as well that has rings that you can fly through as you learn how to do that. It would be cool if they taught people how to do the reverse maneuver as well. I don't know if that's the case, but little things like that. The tutorial, it's good that they're working on it, and hopefully it's not taking a long time to get something like that into the game itself. Next, they talked about the mentorship system, and they did say specifically that the mentorship system will be released also in the next update. So next update, we do know now that we're getting DirectX 11, we're getting the NS operatives or NS robots, whatever you want to call them. We're also getting the mentorship update. And they say that it's going to be very similar to the way that it works currently on the PlayStation 4. So if you log in on the PlayStation 4, you are dropped into a squad automatically. There's no way to opt out on that. You just are placed in a squad. When I've played on the PS4, that's the way it's worked for me as well. You log in, you're automatically in a squad. That's what they're going to do on the PC side of the game itself. It seems like they're only going to be doing this towards new players, not existing players, which is good. I'd hate to be playing, or I hate to log in one night, expect to do some outfit ops, and then get dumped into a random squad. So it sounds like this is only going to be for new players, so they can be dropped into mentor squads. And again, when you create a squad, this is something we've talked about in the past, you're going to be able to check it off as a mentor squad. You've got that in game now, but it's going to start really funneling these new players into the mentor squad itself. It's good, and I'm excited to get the mentorship system into the game, because I know there's a lot of you out there who want to mentor these new players and get these new players into the game. Next, they talked about the spawn system update, and that is also going to be available in the next update. So again, now we've got 4 things to look forward to. DirectX 11, NS operatives, mentorship system, and the spawn system. Now, the spawn system, they've been fixing bugs. It's going to be continue to be worked on as more time passes with new versions each time. It's that wave spawn system that they showed off the live stream previously, where you'll be able to get into closer locations faster than further locations. It's a different way for the spawn system to work. I'm not going to dive too much into it again. I covered it when they did the last live stream. I'm curious to see when it actually comes to live itself. After that, they spent some time talking about the anniversary that's coming up. It's going to be sometime in May. As we know, Planetside originally launched on May 20th, so I would not be surprised if we see the anniversary stuff sometime around there. It would be nice if it was that whole week. The 20th is a Monday this year. I'd love to see it run for 2 weeks, maybe from the 20th to the 31st, end of May. That would not be bad. Coincidentally, that would coincide when I'm heading down to California and really hoping to get a tour of the offices down there. So that would be kind of neat. As with last year's anniversary, and this is the Planetside anniversary, not the Planetside 2 anniversary, so don't get confused. Last time they had the Planetside 1 classic armor and weapons available. Most likely all that's going to be available as well. Also, they showed off the Doku common pool helmets and armors that mimic the NS operative stuff. So it sounds like those things are going to be coming around the same time, maybe as the anniversary event. And again, the armors look really good. Doku completely outdid himself as always. So you're going to be able to get those same armors on regular players and not just the NS operative characters. After they did that, they opened it up to questions. Some of those included, is there going to be an outfit purge for names? And they said soon, but there's no answer on that. I'm hoping that they think about doing a player name purge too. What I would love is them to use all these kind of DirectX stuff coming out, get all kinds of players, and then a year from now, if you still have somebody who never logged in during any of that, maybe it's time to consider purging some of the regular player names, not just the outfit names. Next, somebody asked if the NS operatives come with their own slot, and the answer is no, but they are going to be opening up an additional slot at no charge for both members and non-members, just for NS operatives. Again, don't forget, in order to use the NS operatives, you must be a member of the game. You can use them on test right now, but when they come to live, you're going to need to be a member to get access to them. Somebody else asked if there were going to be unique voices for the NS operative characters. They all said that they really wanted that, but that's not coming in the next update. They'll still have the sounds from their faction. Again, I'd love to voice these things. That's something I should talk to them about. Somebody else asked about what's going on with the PS4, especially with the DirectX 11. They're afraid that there's not going to be a very large performance update, and there's going to be a lot more tech needed to bring that up to date, but they are getting closer on that. They said while you guys won't be getting the DirectX 11 stuff immediately, you can expect an update in the coming months before too deep into the summer itself, which should vastly improve stability with a small performance boost, including asset loading improvements and some stuff like that. So not the real answer that PS4 folks wanted to hear, but something that you're going to get also. Someone else asked about Osher, and they said that once they wrap up a lot of these things that they're working on, some of the stuff that we're going to be getting in the next update, they're going to free up resources to work on Osher. They're hoping for early summer to start doing live streams and other progress of Osher itself, so we can certainly look forward to that. And then at the end, Nick had a little bit of a question, or not a question, kind of a statement he wanted to make, and I thought it would be best to actually play this in his own words, so I actually pulled this from the live stream itself, and I want to just actually play what he said, because just me summarizing it I don't think is good enough, so I'm going to play that now.
But before we're done, before we do this last giveaway, I just wanted to just once again bring up the that system that we're going to be implementing in the upcoming patch, where when you mark yourself as a mentor squad, you're going to get low BR players that are going to come back to, or are going to be assigned to your squad. And no matter how much improvements we make to the new player tutorial, to the sort of initial experience that the player has, just in general for the game, there is nothing that can live up to a sort of hand-guided experience from a Planetside veteran in the game. So, and I'm really hoping, so the sort of the vision experience that's in my head is we have members that are playing as NSO characters, and they start squads where they mark themselves as mentor squads, and you got these new players that are returning to the game for the first time in maybe years, or maybe even playing it for the very first time, and there's just so much to do, but really what they need to do is just get into a fight. And despite we constantly hit people over the head with, like, please use instant action, in instant action, we're also making some improvements to hopefully take people into better fights. There's still nothing that comes even close to what a Planetside veteran can do to introduce people to like all of the concepts of the game, the upgrades that you would spend all your certs on first, like how to grind for certs, just everything about the game, like doing a gal drop for the first time. And so you get to sort of get soak in a little bit of that childlike wonder of these new players, and really that. You guys are the reason that Planetside is still around right now. And so what I'm really doing right now is asking you guys to just give us a little bit more than your continued support by playing the game. Help us be good ambassadors to all these new players as they come into the game. It's going to be a message that I send out again, but really you guys are the ones that I wanted to reach out to, because I know that a lot of the people watching right now are the most dedicated fans for Planetside. And this is really our chance to hold on to as many of these new players as possible for as long as possible, and just keep these fights as big as they can for as long as they can, and allow for us to just continue to improve upon the game for years to come. So I just wanted to throw that appeal out there, and I realize there's going to be players that will be toxic and take advantage or abuse the mentor system, but I know by far that the positive actors, the people out there that have been supported the game for as long, will vastly outnumber those toxic people that will try to ruin the experience for new players. So thanks once again for you guys for supporting the product, for helping us make this game and continue to make this game, and thanks for coming and watching us stream today. All right, bye.
So there, as you can see, he's really just asking for people to take this mentorship stuff seriously. They understand that there's going to be some shitty players out there who are going to abuse it, but clearly they're really hoping that the community, my listeners, the people watching the live stream, are going to be those players who love Planetside 2 as much as I do and as much as they do, and are going to try to help retain these new players that are going to be coming back in or coming into the game based on the DX11 update and the NS Operatives update itself. So again, I thought it was important just so you guys could hear actually Nick's words on this particular thing. But that is the entire live stream that happened. You know me, I love it when they do live streams, and I wish they'd do more of them. I wish they'd do a monthly live stream, I'm not going to lie. But I understand that resources are limited as they were. But with that, I'm going to throw it over to Romus with this week's Veteran's Voice before we move into our second topic this week. So take it away, Romus.
All right, Scrub Lord. I've had enough of your whining and your complaining. I understand that things went kinda horribly wrong. I understand the brass worked very hard to make it functional. But you must remember, testing new equipment is not the same as testing stuff in the field. This has not been approved for full combat yet. What am I referring to? Those of you who are testing out the new gear we've been given so we can have some better performance in the field might have noticed that things went horrendously wrong. They had to reboot the whole damn interface. That's what happens. That's why it's a test. You all need to calm down. I'm not even gonna say y'all, because it's important. Testing is testing. So those of you saying the sky's falling can go suck a big lemon. That's right, I'm keeping it family friendly. That's how serious this is. This is important. It's necessary. We're all gonna benefit, but for the love of sweet Nick and Nanite, calm down. We can all go back to destroying those purple people eaters and the blue traders as soon as we can, independent of all this testing. Thank you. This public service announcement has been brought to you by Romos. Remember to help control the pet population, have your Vanu spayed or neutered.
So Romus has a good point there. You know, if it's on the PTS, there's a reason it's on the PTS, and you shouldn't complain as much for something that's actually out there on the PTS, because it's probably not in the best state that it should be, and that's why it's there. So basically, so second topic this week, I wanted to talk about a Reddit post that You a Madman put out there about max kills by faction, and he titled it "Data is Beautiful," and I agree, data is beautiful. Like you guys know, who are longtime listeners, I'm a quality analyst, and in my analyst position, I do a lot of data analysis. In fact, the majority of my day is spent doing data analysis, making graphs, charting things, stuff like that. Putting it all into bite-sized chunks so that senior management can look at it quickly, determine what they need from it, and go forward with it. And that's what he did in this particular post. And he took max data. So he has two sample sets. His first sample set is about 7,500 max kills from Primetime Emerald before the game update. And he apologized. He deleted a lot of older data, so that's why there's only 7,500 kills. And then he took approximately 10,000 kills from Emerald after the max changes went through. Now, not surprisingly, when we look at the old max kill utilization data, NC max kills made up the lion's share. Almost 41% of all max kills with a max in the game were made by NC maxes. And then both the TR and VS were close, with almost 30%. I think VS was 29.79 and TR was 29.64. So again, if we just round those up, each of those are 30%. NC is 41%. So 11% more kills with NC maxes. And the main weapon used by over 16% of those NC players was the Matic. That was my favorite weapon as well prior to the nerf. After the nerf, not surprisingly, NC max kills have gone from 41% to 17%. That's a 24% drop in kills by NC maxes from one to the next. TR and VS, not surprisingly, still appear to be about the same. TR max kills are about 41%. VS max kills are about 42%. So I'm not surprised that these are the results that we've gotten, but I'm glad that someone was able to get the data for this so that we could actually see something with our eyes showing what the difference is. And, you know, those Matics that I talked about before, 16% previously, and 16% was the highest percentage out of every weapon being used. They've gone down to less than 3%. So a 13% drop from one to the next, but that's huge. It really makes me feel that the NC maxes were over-nerfed. Obviously, the goal of maxes, if you've got a flat 33% population across all three factions, is that max kills should be roughly 33% of each faction. And granted, it wasn't that way prior, 41 compared to 30 and 30. The VS and the TR maxes were pretty close to where they were supposed to be. So this data is telling me that NC maxes were over-nerfed. And I'm hoping that the developers are reading this data as well, seeing this same information, and maybe giving back some of the teeth that NC maxes had. I wonder, and this is just blind speculation on my end, and listeners feel free to correct me if I'm 100% wrong on this, but I almost wonder if the simple fact of giving NC maxes slugs again might be enough to push them back towards that 33% evenness amongst all three factions. Again, it's kind of crazy, the difference between, pre-nerf to post-nerf, that NC Maxes are just completely, disappearing from the amount of kills. Again, it's almost a 25% decrease from one to the next, and that is the definition of an over-nerf, in my opinion. So I'm curious to see what the developers do about this. Again, You a Madman is pretty damn awesome for putting this information together, and it's good to see stuff like this. I'm going to include a link to his Reddit post so you guys can actually go right there and see this data that I'm looking at, because it's right there in I want to say black and white, but it's right there in blue, purple, and red. With that, let's move on to our third topic this week. And that third topic is something that I wasn't aware of, but since I spent some time talking about the Procore saga last week, and I got a lot of good responses from you guys, it seems that the majority of people agreed with how I felt about how he was handled. That it was funny, but maybe it was a little too much, but he got what he deserved in the end, and screw him, and that's that. But this also brought to life some other things that maybe are less than scrupulous that people are doing in game. And again, the big one right now is pilots preserving their KD ratio. And so I'm sure you guys are wondering, how are pilots preserving their KD ratio? Basically, when a person flying is about to get shot down and killed, instead of allowing themselves to be killed, they are switching to coal tier. And coal tier never has a queue, so you can instantaneously switch over to coal tier. One person even showed how to use auto hotkey to make a script to basically automatically do this. So if you just press a button combination, it'll click the 3 mouse clicks that you have to do in order to move yourself from the current live situation onto coal tier itself, and that way you will not get killed, and then therefore you will not have a KD loss, and also the person who shot you down will not get credit for actually killing someone. Yes, they'll get credit for shooting down your ESF, but again, they won't get credit, or whatever you're flying for that matter, but they won't get actual credit for killing you. And again, I had no idea about this, but I think it's a really shitty thing to do, that if you're a pilot, if your ego is that big that you can't suffer a KD loss for getting shot down, that you need to switch to a different continent, in this case coal tier, so that you don't die, that's a pretty shitty thing to do. And honestly, the response to one of these posts is that the devs agree and have also noticed the issue. Also agree that it is not fair, and it is on their list of things to change, but there is no ETA on how soon they're going to actually be getting to it. So I guess this is just, if you're somebody who's doing this, first of all, I think you're a piece of shit. Second of all, I think that your days are numbered. So if you find somebody's doing this, I personally feel that you should out them to the community so the rest of us can all shit on them, because like I said, it's a pretty shitty thing to do, that your ego can't handle your KD going down, so you have to warp yourself to culture so you don't die. With that, let's move on to our fourth and final topic this week. And that last topic is about the Planetside Infantry League. This is something that just launched. It's running from April 12th to April 28th. It is a 6v6 infantry league. I guess that's the best way for me to describe it. Being run by Planetside Battles. And there's a lot of teams involved in this. I play with B-Way. You guys know that. I also play with Bax. I also play with Joke. They all have teams in this, so I hope that you all don't think that I'm just talking about this because people that I'm friends with are doing this, but I'm talking about this because I like the stuff that Planetside Battles does, and I like to give them a little bump every time they do something like this so that they continue doing something like this. But what I like most about this Planetside Infantry League is that when they put this post out, they also have a team spotlights section. And this lists all the various teams that are competing on this, both A bracket and B bracket teams. It has a list of all the people that are playing with their current KDRs, their KPMs, their IVI scores. It has a whole team summary about each of them. It has a player spotlight for 2 of the players on them. This is really well done. I really like what they did, and hats off to whoever wrote the player spotlights on this because it's good stuff. I love seeing what everybody's KD is, what their KPM is. Like I said, IVIs as well. Make me realize that I'm an absolute shit of a player when I look at these. But I really like what they did on this one, and I hope that future leagues, quote unquote, kind of take a piece out of this playbook and do something similar to what they've done here. Again, if you're interested in the Planetside Infantry League, again, it's a 6v6 tourney. There's going to be about 80 different matches. It's going to be a lot of good stuff that's going on for the next 3 weeks. You guys should check some of this stuff out if you do get a chance. Again, follow the twitch.tv/Planetside Battles or Planetside Battles 2. And you'll get notifications every time they go live, and you can watch some of these streams. Good stuff that they're putting together, and I highly recommend it if you're interested in stuff like this. But with that, let's move on to housekeeping this week.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
All right, unfortunately, no voicemail, no emails, no anything like that this week, so that's just going to be it for this week's show. But as always, how can you get in touch with me or the show itself? Your first stop should be my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. Again, I just renewed it for another year. You can also email me at instantactionshow@gmail.com. I always read my emails off on the show and answer them. You can call me and leave me a voicemail at 347-4VM-4PS2. That's 347-486-4772. And always follow the show on Twitter at InstActPodcast. But in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. But finally, thanks for listening, and keep spamming that Join Combat, formerly known as Instant Action button. Derringer out.